I'm giving you guys the top 5 best meta loadouts in Warzone right now. You guys are going to absolutely love this, and these are going to be the best TTK overall as well. So we're going to start out with what people are using on the regular basis. Even if you guys don't like it, it's reality. We're going to start with the PPSH, and we're going to start with the recoil booster for the increased fire rate. Now, you get a reduction of accuracy, but that's not a big deal. There's no real other alternative other than the Mercury silencer. I mean, if you want to use that, you get sound suppression, horizontal recoil control, and bullet velocity with no cons, but you do want the fastest rate of fire for the best TTK. We're going to move on to the Kavalevskaya 230 mmB03P. You get hipfire accuracy, hipfire recoil recovery, and fire rate. You get a reduction of recoil control and aim down sight speed, but that's not a big deal. If you don't want to use this, I mean, you can use the Empress 140mm rapid for the fire rate and bullet velocity, which this doesn't get. You don't get increased bullet velocity on this, but you do get more fire rate, and you can actually hip fire with this. So this is an alternative if you just want an ADS, but this is the better option for ADS and hip fire. Moving on, we're going to use the slate reflector. If you don't want to use that, you can use the niter. If you don't want to use the niter, you can just use the iron sight. The iron sight's actually really good. Use the Kavalevskaya skeletal for the sprint to fire speed and movement speed. You get a reduction of initial firing recoil. If you don't want to use that and you want to hip fire a little bit more, you can use the remove stock for hip fire accuracy, movement speed, and sprint to fire speed. You do get a reduction of accuracy, aim down sight speed, and recoil control. Completely up to you whichever one you want to use, but this one has a con that's not really a big deal. Moving on, we're putting on tight grip for the accuracy and recoil during sustained fire with no con whatsoever. If you want to make this a strafe build, then you can put on steady for ADS firing move speed, but that would require an entirely different setup. Now, moving on, we're going to put on quick for sprint speed. There's no real other one I would suggest other than on hand for equipment dexterity and aim down sight speed. Aside from that, put on polymer grip for flinch resistance and accuracy and recoil during sustained fire. Considering this has a high, extremely high actually, rate of fire, you're going to want to have polymer grip plus the tight grip to control the accuracy and recoil during sustained fire. 8mm Nambu 71 round mags for accuracy, well, recoil and control and accuracy. Fire rate and magazine ammo capacity, you get a reduction of bullet velocity and range, movement speed, bullet penetration, and damage, but that's not a big deal. This is honestly the best choice. Some people choose the Gorenko, and I just don't suggest it. Subsonic, so there's no minimap ping when you actually shoot. This is a great option, and I don't recommend using anything else other than lengthen if you want to use something else. For the increased bullet velocity, and the M19 30 strife angled for horizontal recoil control, which is the recoil control pattern of this weapon. Anyway, you get a reduction of aim down sight speed and sprint fire speed, but this is going to be a very, very low recoil build with an extremely high TTK. Moving on, this is an absolute classic and the gun that everyone loves. Despite it getting nerfed like 100 times, this thing is still the meta. We're using the H4 Blixen, and we're going to start out with the recoil booster for the increased fire rate and slight reduction of accuracy. Move on to the Janssen 9-inch RMK for the damage range, and bullet velocity. You get a reduction of recoil control and accuracy, hip fire accuracy, and headshot damage, but that's not a big deal. If you want no recoil, you can put on the Bergstrom 17-inch F3 for the recoil control and accuracy, bullet velocity, and flinch resistance with a reduction of sprint to fire speed and out sway control, but you're going to have a lower TTK than the Janssen 9-inch RMK, so that's completely up to you, whichever one you want to choose. Throw on the slate reflector. If you don't want to use that, you can use the niter. If you don't want to use that, there's actually another option that some people choose, some people don't choose to do it. It's basically going to be like the MP40 iron sight, where it's an alternative iron sight when you get increased aim down sight speed. Completely up to you, whatever one you want to use. Use remove stock for movement speed, sprint to fire speed, aim down sight speed. You get a reduction of flinch resistance, recoil control, accuracy, and aim walking steadiness. Throw on fleet for the weapon swap quickness and movement speed. Throw on quick for sprint speed. Throw on grooved grip. Now, groove grip is actually really special. You get aim walking movement speed, horizontal recoil control, ADS firing move speed, and aiming stability. You get a reduction of sprint to fire speed and aim down sight speed, but this is going to be an incredible strafe build. Trust me when I say this, the rest of this build is going to be insane. I put on the 7.62 Gorenko 54 round mags for recoil control and accuracy, increased torso damage, and magazine ammo capacity. This is going to be basically the best bang for your buck. It's not going to be the most bullets, but it's going to be the most efficient bullets with the best TTK. You get a reduction of movement speed, bullet penetration, bullet velocity and range, and aim down sight speed. That's not a big deal. They're on subsonic, so there's no minimap ping when you're actually shooting your gun. And then SG98 compact for aim walking movement speed and reduced scope sway and gun bob. So this is going to be a strafing machine with the best TTK in the game. Now this one's going to be a little bit of a bonus, but I still want to talk about the Grau because it's incredible. Throw on the monolithic suppressor. Wow, not the breacher device. The monolithic suppressor for the sound suppression and damage range. You get the cons of aim down sight speed reduction and aim walking steadiness. Tempest 26.4 Archangel for the damage range, bullet velocity, and recoil control, reduction of aim down sight speed and movement speed. For the barrel, for the underbarrel, put on Ranger foregrip for recoil control and aiming stability. For the optic, put on the VLK 3x optic. And make sure when you do put on the optic, you go to customize, you go to reticle, and make sure you choose the T-pose. That's very important with this loadout. Next, you're going to use a 60 round magazine because it's the most amount of bullets. And this is an incredible AR to use in Warzone. Next, we're moving on to the Armaguerra. This thing is incredible, and the pros were using it in the World Series of Warzone, so I might as well talk about it. Throw on the recoil booster for the increased fire rate and slight reduction of accuracy. Throw on the body 570mm precision for the highly accurate and controllable headshot damage and bullet velocity. Get a reduction of body damage and sprint to fire speed, but that's not a big deal. There's no better alternative. Now, I was using the body 315mm C2 for a while for the damage. This damage fall off in long range and bullet velocity. You get a reduction of recoil control and accuracy, but I think that this build is way better. On the slate reflector, if you don't want to use that, you can use the niter. If you don't have that, then you can just use the iron sight and you will do completely fine. On the Emerito TA skeletal for aim walking movement speed, aim walking steadiness, aim down sight speed, and initial fire and recoil, you get a reduction of sprint to fire speed, accuracy and recoil during sustained fire, and hip fire accuracy, not a big deal. Throw on steady for the ADS firing move speed. Throw on quick for the sprint speed. Throw on grooved grip for the aim walking movement speed, horizontal recoil control, ADS firing move speed, and aiming stability. You get a reduction of sprint to fire speed and aim down sight speed. Throw on the 9mm 60 round mags for the magazine ammo capacity. Now you're going to get cons of aim down sight speed, reload quickness, and movement speed, but it's honestly so much better than the 8mm Curry 72 round mags, and sounds like a better option considering it has more bullets, but you get a reduction of fire rate and recoil control and accuracy. This thing is known for its fire rate, and the fact that you're not going to have the recoil control and accuracy makes this basically an entirely different gun. It's not worth it. Throw on subsonic for the no minimap ping, and last but not least, the SG98 compact for the aim walking movement speed and reduced scope sway and gun bob. This is going to be a strafing machine with an incredible TTK that rivals any SMG. Now for the people that love snipers out here, I want to show you guys some love. Throw on the Vanguard Kar98 and put on the Scout silencer for the sound suppression, horizontal recoil control, and bullet velocity. That's the best one overall. You don't want to use the SD silencer just because you get a reduction of aim down sight speed and sprint to fire speed, which you really don't want to have. Throw on the VDD RE02K for the bullet velocity, accuracy, upper extremities damage, and damage. Get a reduction of movement speed and aim down sight speed, but that's completely fine. You're going to throw on the short stock for the movement speed, aim down sight speed, sprint to fire speed, and aim walking movement speed. You get a reduction of accuracy, aim walking steadiness, recoil control, and flinch resistance. Completely fine. Throw on fleet for the weapon swap quickness and movement speed. Throw on hand for the aim down sight speed and equipment dexterity. Throw on the polymer grip for the flinch resistance and aim down sight speed. As you see, the polymer grip is actually different for the sniper. Throw on the 8mm Clauser 5 round fast mag. You don't want to use the Sakura just because you don't want less bullet velocity and range, and you don't want less bullet penetration, you don't want less damage. Make sure you have this. There's no cons whatsoever. Throw on lengthen for the increased bullet velocity, and throw on heavy foregrip for the recoil recovery, idle sway control, and reduced scope sway and gun bob. Last but not least, we're going to go over UGM-8 because this LMG is absolutely incredible. Throw on the MX silencer for the sound suppression, horizontal recoil control, vertical recoil control, and damage range. You get a reduction of aim down sight speed and sprint to fire speed. And move over to the Bernard XL 214 736mm for the recoil control, bullet velocity, flinch resistance, and reduced scope sway and gun bob. You get a reduction of aim down sight speed, movement speed, and sprint to fire speed, but that's not a big deal. Put on the SVT 40PU scope. That's going to be completely fine. Throw on the Mercier WT Anchor, I'm assuming, for the recoil control when mounted, crouched, and prone, accuracy and recoil during sustained fire. You get a reduction of movement speed though. Not a big deal. Throw on the tight grip for accuracy and recoil during sustained fire. Throw on fully loaded for max starting ammo. Throw on the hatch grip for recoil control and flinch resistance. Throw on the 6.5 Sakura 125 round box for the recoil control, fire rate increase, hip fire accuracy, and magazine ammo capacity. You get a reduction of bullet velocity, reload quickness, bullet penetration, and damage range. But trust me, this is the best option overall. Go on lengthen for the bullet velocity, and last but not least, M19 41 hand stop for recoil control. If you don't want to use that, you can use bipod. If you guys want cheap battle passes and bundles from Call of Duty, go to MMO XP. They have fast delivery and use code CHAIN.